So technical.
Hey, everybody, it's time for There's No Crying in Crochet. We'd like to welcome you to our podcast where we talk about all the things that frustrate you in crochet and try to give you all the information to solve your problems. So if you are, we would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channels, Busy Crochet and MadameStitch Crochet, where you will find lots of tutorials and lots of different things to keep you busy. And if you subscribe to YouTube, you find all the things that we have coming up. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure that you give StreamYard permission to display your name so that we can see who we're talking to, which is always fun. And I forgot, as we always do, because we're flying by the seat of our pants, to introduce ourselves. I am Debbie of MadameStitch, and my cohort in crime is
Biz from Busy Crochet. Hi, everybody.
And we are so happy to have you here today because this is such a special episode for us. We've been talking all month long and will continue through the month of June, talking about crochet fashion for men and men in crochet. And today we have a guest with us. We don't often do this, so this is really special for us. We have a special guest who happens to specialize in Crochet Makes for men. We're going to introduce you to Michelle Ferguson.
One thing. We need to let everybody know that this is pre-recorded, so you won't be able to chat with Michelle. But if you have any questions, make sure that you leave your questions in the YouTube chat or on Facebook, and we will make sure you tag her if you can. We'll make sure that the questions get to her.
Absolutely. Thank you, Biz, for that. All right. So here we go. This is Michelle joining us.
Hello.
From
Hi,
Florida.
Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, hot Florida.
Yes. Where are you in Florida?
I am just south of Tampa.
Oh my gosh, I'm in Pensacola. So yeah, it's toasty.
Oh yeah.
There.
Oh, it is. We're getting a lot of rain this week, so that's nice. But
I actually have sunshine for a change.
Yeah. Yep. It's so hot.
Well, I'm not going to tell you guys that it's in the 70s here in sunshine.
Yeah.
That's about to change, though. That's all right. All right. So I thought we probably should get to business because nobody wants to really hear from Biz and me today, although we think they do. But they really want to hear from you, Michelle. So I thought we would start with, for those who don't know you or for those who need a refresher course in all things Michelle Ferguson, tell us a little bit about who you are. We already know where you live. Tell us a little bit about you and anything you want to share about you and what you do.
Okay. So I'm Michelle. I live in Florida. I am a wife to Brian, and we've been married 15 years, and we have 2 boys, which is where the name Two Brothers Blankets came from. I started crocheting when I was pregnant with my second son because I wanted to just make cute little baby hats and stuff for my toddler and new baby. And that turned into, like most designers, an Etsy shop. And I was like, what am I going to crochet and put in my Etsy shop? So I thought, blankets, that'll be easy and simple. And that's where Two Brothers Blankets came from. And then I, like most designers, couldn't stop crocheting, learned how to just kind of design on my own, make my own thing, and eventually got in. I know, right? It just never ends. And eventually got into garments. So started out with women's garments. I've been designing for 10 years now. And it started out with women's garments, accessories. I did a few little, home decor as I was finding my niche and stuff. And then a couple years ago, I want to say it was the end of 2021, I started delving into men's designs and thinking up my book. And the rest is history.
And here we are. I have to, because a lot of us crocheters also start with other professions. You started something else before you started crochet blogging.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Yep. So I was a mommy blogger. I had a blog called The Not So Secret Confessions of a Second Time Mom. And it was a mommy blog It's how I got into the online space. I just needed a place to talk about being a mom of a toddler and a baby. And I was at home, and it gets lonely. And so I started that blog just for the fun of it. And it turned into, it's crazy. I never actually monetized that blog, but I did get a lot of review, like, partnerships with like baby companies. Yeah. So that was really cool. Then I learned how to crochet and became obsessed with crocheting, and the mommy blog just got
and everything just falls away.
Right.
You could live on yogurt and Cheerios.
Yeah. Like, thinking about it, if I'd have kept it up. Like, I have a friend who's through the years, and her kids are about the same as mine, and she's still doing it. But I'm like, what would I talk about now? I've got a preteen and a teenager.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. I think you have a lot to talk about, because both of us have been there, done that, and there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it would be totally different at this point, but it would be, I'd have something to talk about. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really cool that you've gotten into the crochet men's design space, and you have the perfect family for it, because you get to try all the things on your sons and your husband, and they are not so bad to look at models. They're pretty fabulous models. So you've got kind of a built-in audience there. I think that's really cool.
They do a good job, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Biz, do you have a question for Michelle?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it's kind of fun how, when you've got those built-in models in your space, and you started when they were fairly little. So I'm sure that the inspiration behind a lot of this stuff came like as you're like, hey, how can I dress that? And now they're the next size, so I can make something here. And because each age brings on different, joys and different toys and different ideas. So that had to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. My little guy has been modeling for me since he was like a year and a half. Like, he knows. And he's 12
paid
now,
Cheetos.
almost 13. So, right? I mean, they've got it down pat, and it's gone from hats and, cute little sweaters to how can I make the most like something that they're really going to love and wear, and it's modern and stylish, and it's comfortable.
I do have a question for you. Have you ever had them kind of any pushback from your models?
No. Well, I will say, my oldest, the cover of the book, this one, this is my Noah. This one, he got mad at me because it was a little itchy, and I was like, yeah, I might change the yarn to that. It's wool of the Andes. So it's wool.
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
It was January, but it's Florida, South Florida, so it was still warm. And he was like, Mom, really?
Yep. So, and all your pores are open, and they can feel every piece of that wool.
That was the most pushback I've gotten. They've all been really great. My husband, which is him in the hoodie, he gives me feedback. Like, he will literally, he was like, I'll wear this to church. Like, I like this. And so that helps a lot. And that was my goal for the whole book, was I wanted stuff that guys would actually wear. Like, the masculine men in our lives would be like, wow, that's crocheted. Like, that looks really good, that kind of thing. And so I definitely wanted their feedback, and that was the goal, like the whole, like, tunnel vision. Is this going to be stylish, comfortable, and modern for the modern man,
Right. Because it seems like there is a bit of a lack of, before your designs came along, and it was always it's either all one style where it's that close up crew neck, the long sleeve sweater, or it's the sweater vest, or it's fun to see. I really love that hoodie that's the one that's on the cover, right? Yeah. That's one of my favorite ones of yours, because it really is. It's an everyman sweater. And that's what I love about it.
Yep. That was the goal. When I came up with the idea. So the reason I even came up with the idea is because I had 2 or 3 men's sweaters, my husband in already, that I had designed patterns, and they were in my Etsy shop, and they sold so much better than all my women's designs. I had tons of women's designs, but they were like my best sellers. And I was like, all right, what can I do with this? Like, how do I need to, and run with this? And that's how I came up with the idea. I was like, I could come up with a lot of men's stuff. Well, let me put it in a book, But like I said, the whole goal was there's men's stuff out there, but it's not the most modern. It's not the most stylish. It doesn't look that comfortable, like I wanted it to be stuff. And that was one of the things I've heard from my audience and other people, that my guy won't wear crochet. He won't wear anything I make him. And so I wanted to design stuff that guys would actually wear and like want to wear, and like be in disbelief that their wife or whoever made it for them, like, wow, you made this. This is like I could grab it off of this rack at the store. So
yes. And that's awesome. I love that you went that way, and I love that you've niched into that. Because it is such an overlooked area in fashion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's, besides the fact that, can you imagine being a man crocheter and the like little bit of designs that they have to choose from? Like, besides that, like that's a whole nother problem in itself. There's just not a lot out there. So if I were a male crocheter and I wanted to make myself a sweater, and the few things I had to choose from, you know what I mean? So it would be frustrating. And so you've got two different types of people that this appeals to. And so I was like, and it's proven to be true. I mean, people love the book. They love the designs in the book. The hoodie is by far the most popular one, the favorite.
Oh, I bet. It's just such a nice
So it's worked out, and I definitely feel like I've hit a pain point where people are like, yes, we want this. So,
for sure.
More to come.
Awesome. Yes. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. And Michelle, I think you bring up an important point. One of the things that we discovered when we were looking at the history of crochet is that for the last half century or more, it's been very female focused, not only in the designs that are out there, but also who's crocheting. And I think in the last couple of decades, you're slowly seeing that change so that men are entering the space. And because of the way your designs are easy, they're not easy, but they're accessible. They're accessible to most every crocheter. They're fun to make because you have repetitive stitches in them. So it's not only fun for the person who's making it, it's fun for the person who's going to wear it. And I think we're seeing that change in the industry, where we realize that men need to be a part of the conversation. And you've really opened the door for that, I think, in all of the things that you've just said.
For sure. I do want to ask you, though, not to get off of your designs, but what made you fall in love with garment designing? I mean, were there any classes that you took, or what was it that drove you in that direction as opposed to doing blankets and stuff? Because it took me a long time to figure out that my thing is blankets, because I was doing all the things and I hated, most of it. So when I finally niched down into what I do the best, it's blankets. So what made you go in that direction?
I think one of the first things I ever designed on my own was a sweater, and it was 2 rectangles that I sewed together. And I think
Good for you.
That's where I got the most. I was crazy. It was crazy. So I don't know. I think I just enjoy that the most. I think I find my inspiration the most from that. I always remember being like I would see something in the store and I would be like, that would be cute crocheted. Wonder if I can do it. And then I'd like challenge myself in my head and be like, let me try to, and so that was just, I liked being able to make myself something that I could wear. And just, I don't know.
It's so funny how each of our brains work, and like what inspires you and what drives you to go like, ooh, I want to do that. Like, let me see if I can make that happen.
Yeah, I'm very competitive and like compete against myself quite often. And so it was always like a challenge. Like, can I make this look super cute and, in crochet?
And yes, you can. And yes, you can.
For sure.
Michelle, I was with you through the whole process of putting your book together, but I think it's interesting for our listeners to understand what it takes to put together a book like this. You know, you don't just come up with 12 designs and go, let's just put it in a paperback.
Right.
Really briefly, just tell us what the process was once you had the idea you needed to do that. How did you have to make that happen?
Okay, so I decided to self-publish, and so that took a ton of research. Like I watched so many YouTube videos, read so many blog posts, like just tons of information. And it was all people who'd written like fiction, you know, and so it was a little bit of like figuring it out with like pictures and stuff like that. But I use Amazon KDP, which is their self-publishing program, and it is very user-friendly. Like it was pretty simple to use. I was able to figure out how to format my book. I use Word for everything. Like I might be old-fashioned, but I use like my patterns are Word, everything.
I use it. Nope. We do too.
So I learned how to do the formatting of my book with Word, like YouTube videos, all the things. And so that made it so simple. And then the cover I made on Canva, had to watch a video to learn to do that. But it's so user-friendly that I was able to do it that way. Took me a little over a year between the designing and all that. But yeah, it just was a lot of learning. And like I said, I like to challenge myself. I like to take things on. So I was just like,
so in your
all
research,
right, we're going to figure this out.
In your research, do they recommend a particular amount of information? Like they say, oh, you should have so many, I'm just going to say like a recipe book. They want to have 30 recipes in the book. You know what I mean? Is it the same thing with this, or was this one of those things you just kind of had to feel it out for yourself, like what you thought was appropriate?
Yeah. No, because like I said, most of it was fiction writers. So they were just writing chapter books, you know?
Right.
And so it was kind of something I had to figure out for myself. And so I decided to go with the 12, and I don't even know how many pages it is, but it worked out. It's not a thick book, but it's
no, but it's
12
substantial.
is a great place to start.
Yeah. So I
It'll
was like,
give you a whole outfit.
And yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I just that's what I decided to go with. There was another sweater that is now since been published, but it was going to go in the book, and it was a disaster at the time, and I didn't want to wait around to redo it. So ended up putting another hat in the book, but it worked out because there's 6 garments, 4 hats, and 2 scarves. Nice. So it worked out nice. So yeah, that year of research and everything was not without its share of tears either.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh man. I was like, what did I get?
Well, they do say it takes blood, sweat, and tears, right? I hope you didn't do that in blood while you were doing this.
And anything worth doing is worth working hard for.
Yep.
Right.
And it was good, and it was worth it. So yep.
So this may be putting you on the spot a great deal, but what if you were to describe your design style for men, what kinds of construction types or stitches or that sort of thing do you gravitate toward and put in your designs, particularly in the book?
Okay. Most every one of the designs is textured. It's full of texture. I feel like that is what most guys don't care about, like, you know, the frill of it or any of it. Like they want something simple, and they want something that looks good. And so I find that the textures really are what work for that. I also find the texture is helpful towards, you know, like the more modern, oh my goodness, that's really crocheted, it doesn't look crocheted kind of feel, you know, too. So everything has a lot of texture. So everything is like one stitch in back loop and front loop only, or 2 stitch repeats, or like a lot of it is very simple repeats, just because that creates that texture. And so as far as the workup of the patterns, there's a little bit of everything in there. I've got the hoodie is bottom up. The other sweater that's on the front is 2 rectangles, like it's all in pieces. The sleeves are, and then you sew it together. There's a top down raglan, like there's a little bit of everything. And so, I mean, it's something, there's something for everyone in the book.
I was going to say, it sounds like there's enough different skill levels that you can kind of grow with the book.
Right. Yep. There's definitely, I mean, this one is single crochet. the vest is half double. Like, you could, and then if you want to get into that, this is alpine stitch. And so it's a matter of, I think the biggest hurdle to accomplish is figuring out the sizing, because, and I talk about that in the book. I figured out the hard way, the way to size men. You cannot size men the way you size women. And
well, talk about that a little bit, because we're all sort of familiar with sizing for women and how to figure that out. But how is it different?
So men have much broader shoulders. And so you have to go off of their shoulders for the most. I mean, women can be that way too, but more often we do bust and waist and hips. Men, I mean, my husband is a size small in the chest and a large in the shoulders.
Oh my goodness.
And the small looks awful on him, but the large is perfect. So you just have to know.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I talk about it in the book. So I explain it. I explain how to determine, like, if the shoulders are broader or not, which size to go with, and all that. So it's all in the book. But I learned the hard way. So that's the big difference. And I also think that's an issue with some of the designs. I don't want to knock anybody, but like that, the fit is you've got to do with those shoulders. You've got to consider those. And I mean, it's 2 sizes jump from my husband's chest.
That is,
shoulder, you know? So
well, and I mean, men are usually kind of straight up and down. Women have a lot more curves in between. So there's a lot, you have a less to deal with, and yet you've got more to think about. Right.
Yep. And I mean, and I've gotten questions like the book doesn't necessarily address it, but like husky guys, you got guys with, bigger bellies or different, parts of them that are different, and how to make adjustments for that kind of thing. You got your big and tall guys, you got your 6'8" guys, like it's the same with women. Like there's all kinds of different things to take into consideration. But that's my patterns that's my mission, is to help people crochet garments, and
that's awesome.
crochet garments that fit and that feel good, fit their body.
Right.
So lots of stuff on YouTube and all that for that.
You're still blogging though, right?
Okay. I have my website, my Two Brothers Blankets website. So I have.
Okay. Do you do anything like videos or podcasts or anything like that where you do kind of do more of this explaining?
Yes, my YouTube is full of all kinds of videos on how to crochet garments, checking gauge, stuff for men, women, everybody. Like that's where a lot of my stuff is. And I have some things in the works for more like one-on-one or more, more with me Q&A type stuff coming soon. Hopefully this fall.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep.
We'll hit on that at the end so that everybody remembers, because I know that, while we're talking and stuff, people don't take notes.
Yeah.
But
they should, though. I mean,
you should always come to our podcast with a pencil.
With a notebook and pencil. Yeah.
I use my phone, the notepad in my phone.
There you go.
Every time I'm listening to podcasts.
I wish that I was more dedicated to doing that. I have to have pen and paper. I have notebooks with me everywhere that I go. My daughter, she's like the note queen, and my husband is the note king. And it's like, I forget that I put it there. So I'm like, oh, great. Now where's that information but if I have my notebook, I know right where it is.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, Biz, what you should see is my hierarchy in my notes, the folders and the way they're arranged. I don't lose. Yeah. Anyway,
that's a whole nother podcast.
I know we should talk about organizing. Yes.
Yeah.
Michelle, I wanted to ask also, how have you seen a difference in the yarns that you choose for men over women? So they're probably different preferences. Could you talk about that a little bit?
A lot. There's nothing over. No, there is. The hats and scarves are worsted, but the garments are all DK or less. And I find this with women and men. The lighter the yarn, the better the garment. That's what I say.
The drape is so different.
Right.
The drape is so much better. If you want something that feels like truly like something you got at the store, or just truly very comfortable and like not too heavy, not too hot, all that, you're going to want to go with the lighter weight. So sport weight and fingering weight are my two go-tos. Like I love to make garments with those.
Really?
Wow,
fingering weight. I mean, I can
fingering?
see that, but how long does it take you to make a sweater?
I know, I'm like, oh my God.
I'm sorry. I'm just doing the calculations of I love it, but
wow, really?
Yes, it's in stroll fingering, and it did take a long time. I mean, I guess it depends on how much you work on it. This is sport weight, but yeah, it's just, and that's just another thing I try to tell people, like crocheting a garment is a process. It's going to take you some time.
Yes.
It's, you might make mistakes, you might have to frog, but in the end, it'll be worth it. And I feel like, personally, it's my opinion, that it's just, if you want something you're going to wear and wear often, go with these lighter weights that are going to be more comfortable, not so heavy, stuff like that. So if I'd have made that in even a DK, it would weigh 100 pounds. Like, it would be
for sure.
So, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of, it takes us to that subject of like fast fashion versus slow fashion as well. True. Like fast fashion, yes, you can make it really quick, and yes, you can wear it, and all of this stuff. But if it's kind of heirloomy, like this is something that is really going to last you. Fast fashion doesn't necessarily do that, because it's going to come and it's going to go. If you can make something that is really a statement piece that kind of lasts through several different, generations of clothing designs.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you actually get so much more out of it.
Right. And I mean, crochet, look at all the like photos and stuff now. Celebrities are wearing crochet. Like crochet is popular in the clothing, the fashion world. And how much nicer is it to have a handmade, like real crochet garment, So, I mean, it's stylish and people want it and want to wear it. So, yeah. It's got to be comfortable.
Be dedicated to it. If you're going to do it, be dedicated.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Awesome. Well, I remember looking at knit for the longest time was if you wanted to do something like you're doing now with crochet, it had to be knit. And there were lots of men's knit sweaters and knit vests and that sort of thing. And the thing that I always noticed was we always tended to gravitate toward the chunky crochet, the heavier weights, the clumpier stitches, that sort of thing. And that's why they look so different. But I think we've gone through a renovation here in that we're adopting some of the knitwear principles. And that's exactly what you've done in using the lighter weight yarns. It does take longer, but it's worth it for the wearability, for the breathability, for the drape especially. I mean, the chunkier weight yarns don't drape as well. And when you have a garment, you don't want it to be a stiff board when you're wearing it. So I just remember having that revelation a long time ago that knit, they knew how to do things so that they were drapey and flowy. But I think it's because the stitches were smaller and the yarn was a lighter weight. And now we're starting to adopt those principles in crochet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the overall look of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The one thing that I wanted to talk with you about is gauge. Because as you were talking about how we used to use mostly the chunky things. I remember when I was first starting to make clothing, and there was a few magazines from the 80s or something like that. So I got this pattern, and it was okay. So my father-in-law still wears the sweater, and he's gracious enough about it. But it was supposed to be a cardigan. It literally goes down to his knees, and it could be a robe. But he wears it around the house, and he's always just been so gracious about it. But talk to us about how important gauge is.
Oh, I could go on for an hour. Gauge is important. And I just actually, the past few weeks, posted a series of videos on gauge on my YouTube. And I think the big thing is that that caught people off guard was washing your gauge.
Oh,
if you're gonna wash your sweater, if you're gonna wash your sweater, you got to wash your gauge too. Because one, if you're going to block it, or you're going to see what it does block, wool expands, superwash expands, and then dries in the dryer, it shrinks back. So you got to know all that, even if it's machine washable, you got to know all that. You got to know, does it get bigger when I wash it? Okay. If I can only hand wash it and lay it flat to dry, then I need to use those measurements after it's washed.
Wow, that's really a great point.
Yeah. So, but a lot of stuff, like a lot of wool I use is superwash, it'll shrink back in the dryer. So I know I can throw it back in the dryer. There's a whole video. I do the whole step-by-step process.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to have to go find that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So to show you, like, okay, I get gauged with this, but when I wash it, it gets bigger. But when I, when I dry it, it goes right back to the same number of stitches. So I think people don't consider that. Like, so many crocheters skip gauge altogether, but then there's even more to it.
I used to.
And it's like, great, okay, you figured out your gauge, but if you wash this, you're going to be disappointed. So especially with garments, you've got to consider all of that, if you're going to, like, and that's, I mean, like I said, that's my mission, is garments people are actually going to wear and love and, whatever. And so you got to consider all that. So you got to meet gauge, and you got to figure out, washing, drying, the yarn instructions for that, and you got to meet gauge with all those steps. So, and then, well, once you get that done, you know
you're
exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. And so when you get that, when you start working on your project, you can keep that in mind and everything. So, yep.
But you don't just stop with the gauge swatch, right?
Nope. Check your gauge throughout. I talk about that too in one of the videos. Check your gauge throughout the garment too, because often our tension will change from day to day, like hour to hour. I had the demonstration I did was a sweater pattern that I designed in like 2022, and I used the exact same yarn. I had to go up 3 hook sizes, I think, to meet
Holy
gauge.
cow. Wow.
That's me. And I designed both.
Yeah.
So
our stitches become more compact.
Yeah.
Our stitches become more compact or more even, and we finally get into a different rhythm of it, and that changes our tension.
Yep. Yes.
I will say I just recently worked with this really splitty yarn, and I found that my normal gauge, where it's a little bit looser, I was so tight because I had to pay so much attention every single stitch. It was every stitch was perfect, but they were small. They weren't my usual loop-de-doop-de that I did. So
Right. Yep. Yarn makes a difference. Being tired, like when I'm working at night, like crocheting at night compared to in the morning.
It's this big as opposed to this big. Yes.
I'll wake up the next day and be like, what did I do?
What is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Working when you're tired is not a good thing.
Yeah. I talk about milestones a lot in my blog post videos, all that. When you're crocheting a garment, give yourself milestones to stop and check and fit, and check the fit, check the gauge, just different things like that. And that's helpful, I find, even just for accomplishing it and getting it done too. Okay, I'm here. Next is to here, instead of I got this big old sweater to crochet. So
no, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
very good.
All right.
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything?
All of a sudden, right? Blank wall.
I know.
Well, there is this thing that says there's 20 minutes of active conversation, and then there's a lull. We actually went longer than that because we know how to talk about crochet. But I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to tell our viewers about Crochet Makes for Men, crochet fashion? What do you want them to take away from what you're doing with Crochet for Men?
Okay. Well, if you want to get the book, you can get that on Amazon. You can get the ebook on in my Etsy shop, or on my website. You can actually go to menscrochetpatterns.com and it'll redirect you right to my website that has all the information, like all the places you can get it.
Nice.
What's all in it, all the design pictures of all the designs. So that's a good place to start. Like I said, I've got tons of information on my YouTube and my website for crocheting garments, women's and men's. I'm kind of moving into unisex because like the hoodie, I'm working on a women's version. There's already a children's version out. So collections of every size, like child all the way to men's, for these designs that could work for anybody.
Yeah.
But like I said, the big thing is sizing. And so that's my secondary, mission is to help crocheters learn how to crochet garments that fit great, feel great, look great, and that they love and that they will actually wear and wear often. So more to come. Like I said, I've got some things in the works behind the scenes to where people can really like learn and take on those types of projects and overcome the fear of it and the overwhelm and make something they love or make something for a man in their life that they love or whatever. So yeah, you'll see. I mean, I'm still doing women's, but I have so many men's ideas now. So a lot of men's stuff coming too.
Isn't it funny how the spigot turns, right? You open that spigot and here we go.
And I still have very willing models. So as long as I still have willing models.
That's the golden advantage.
Take advantage.
Although the oldest, my oldest, like, so how much am I getting paid?
Oh, funny. Now we're at that stage.
Now we're at that stage. So yeah, we're there, but that's okay. That's okay.
So I see negotiation and contracts in your future.
Right? I'm gonna need them with him. He is he's feisty. So he's just like me. My other one's just like my husband who's quiet and reserved.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny how one always ends up like the other.
Yep. So
although you had 3, Deb, so
yeah, how did that work?
I do. Well, I do. And one of them, my daughter was born on my birthday and we're like twins. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, all right. Well, I think we've done it. We've talked. We know you, Michelle. This is so cool. I am so glad that you agreed to join us today because this has just been a fabulous journey through Crochet Makes for Men. We will give all the information in the description about where they can find you, but your YouTube channel, your blog, your Etsy shops, Amazon, all of those things, we'll make sure those are in the description. Biz, do you have any parting words?
I just have one other question, just because I'm a kind of a weirdo and I like to know what type of person you are. What kind of genres do you like to watch? Are you a board game person? Are you a video game person? Who are you?
Okay. All right. Genre. So I am very much, I love to read. I read a lot of mystery and Christian fiction, like the little cheesy romance stuff. But my sisters, both of my sisters, I'm the oldest of 3 girls. They've just got me into this. What is it? The Court of Thorns and Roses, the fantasy type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love those.
And it's really good. So I'm, trying that out. You have to read it. It's so good. So I do that. But I'm mostly mysteries and little romance type stuff. What else? Oh, I love to go to the beach, which is perfect for living in Florida like that. We go on vacation to the beach still, even though we live 30 minutes from the beach. We just got back from Destin.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It's only an hour away from us.
We meet our family from Georgia there, and
fun.
It's a little bit. So love the beach, love the outdoors. I have 2 dogs, Lucy and Lexi. I read and crochet.
That's
Oh, I love
awesome.
sports. I love
I like it.
sports. I find it. Me and Debbie talk about baseball sometimes. Baseball, basketball, football, especially. I'm a big Georgia Bulldog fan because I'm originally from Georgia. So college and professional, I like all sports, which works out good having boys. So
Yeah.
That is awesome. My husband's a football, and we've just recently gotten into rugby in our house. So
yeah, I have a cousin who plays rugby. She is, yeah.
it's
I'm
fun.
like, "Ooh,
It's
that's
fun to
scary."
watch. That's a whole
Yep.
nother level of crazy.
Right? Ooh, scary.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we end
cool.
every episode with what we're watching because we started as kind of loving true crime, and we go all different directions, but it's
Oh,
always
wow.
fun to find out what someone watches or reads or
Yeah.
just a
Me and my
little bit
husband
of
are currently watching 911, the series that you know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
We like it. Yep.
Cool.
We just find, what we like to do? We like to find stuff that has multiple seasons. So we can just,
Mhm.
So you can just watch. You don't have to be like, oh God, now I have to wait another week, or I've got to wait another month, or
exactly. So we do that. So a lot of it's the older stuff, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Sounds
We've
good.
been through so many different seasons of different shows, especially the stuff from the 80s, just because it's, it's a classic, and Cheers and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And there's like 75 seasons of these things.
Right?
So you can watch and watch and watch.
Those are the best. Yep, those are the best.
It's good
Oh
stuff.
my goodness. Well, thank you
Yes.
so much, Michelle, for
Oh, you're
joining us
welcome.
today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
we look forward to seeing all the cool stuff that you're doing,
Yes.
not just with your designs, but with making the world of crochet for men so much more accessible to all of us who don't necessarily do it as a design process. And for anybody who wants to make for that guy who doesn't want to just make a tie, right?
Yeah.
So we wish you the best of luck, and we know that we'll be seeing you around a lot. So
Yes.
we're going to say goodbye to everybody from There's No Crying in Crochet, and join us next week. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.